Hello, I'm David Kiley, or DK. Welcome to the Wheel Print Podcast, presented to you by Performax, that puts the soul into the design of your custom sport or everyday wheelchair. As host of the Wheel Print Podcast, I will engage with my guests to uncover the power of their human spirit in their achievements or in their struggle. So kick back and enjoy the ride. I'm David Kiley, or DK, and I am your host of the Wheel Print Podcast. Today's guest is Adrina Castro, and is an amazing young lady at 16 years old. Her hometown is Tucson, Arizona. She has a loving and supportive family. You are about to hear and get amazed at the wheel print that this young lady has created for herself. And I'm really proud to have her on. And this episode is brought to you by Performax Wheelchairs. But welcome, Adrina, to our Wheel Print Podcast.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, me too, because we've had a long history of watching each other and doing things together, and I wanted to jump right in. I know everyone knows you, Itty Bitty, Beast Mode. I love to just call you Adrina. I think you're good with that, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with whatever.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us, though, how you got that handle or nickname and why? Because really, most people know you by that than your real name.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people don't actually know my real name, and I have to tell them when I meet them in person. But it actually came when I was a little bit before I started Instagram. We're trying to figure out what's the username gonna be, because it can't just be your name. That's kind of not boring, but you need something to people know you by. And so me and my dad, it was my favorite song at the time. It's Ikeo by Kyle, and it says Itty Bitty, and then they mentioned Marshall Lynch, and that's he's beast mode. So Itty Bitty beast mode. That's kind of where it came about.
Oh man, so you stepped over into the NFL, from basketball to a football. Marshawn Lynch, yeah, man, he is beast mode for sure. Well, and that may have been the start of naming it to your social media platforms, but you've pretty much become a gold medalist on how to manipulate, brand, and show Adrina's life and lifestyle. How did you become so good at doing all this? Is it just trial and error and then frequency?
Yeah, trial and error, and also, frequency plays a lot into it, be frequent with uploading and all that stuff, but also frequent with training and keeping up on all of that. So my sister and my family helps me with all my social media stuff, and they help me film, and just with that, I've kind of I've grown it from there, because just frequently posting gets more engagement, and then knowing the people that I know, like Matt, and obviously you, DK, it just broadened my world, just made it so much bigger than from what it started at.
Yeah, no doubt. You are definitely large and have a really big wheel print on social media, and there's much to be learned by what you've picked up and what you've done. So let's talk about what you refer to as your superpower.
Yeah, spina bifida. Yeah, that's my superpower. Without it, I wouldn't be the person I am. Without my disability, it just makes me who I am, and it's a part of me, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't trade my life or my disability for anything in the world.
Yeah. Well, most people that are going to be listening are going to know what spinal bifida is. Can you explain that a little bit to those that might not?
Yeah. So spina bifida is you have a tethered spine. So there's I'm pretty sure it's a sack of fat on your spine, and it it's called the snowflake effect because it never affects like the same two people the same way. So for me, I started out playing soccer and just like a quote unquote normal kid. And I was 7 years old. I had my second spine surgery. I had my first spine surgery at 3 months old. And up until then, I had played soccer my whole life. I was all about soccer with my sister. And then after my second spine surgery, when I was 7, like my legs started getting weaker and it was getting so much harder to walk. And I had a lot more surgeries to try and fix it to make my legs stronger, but they just kept getting weaker. So when I was around 9 or 10ish, then I was put in a wheelchair, and then I found wheelchair basketball.
And how did you find wheelchair basketball? And how did that come to be? Because that's really where you took off like a rocket.
Yeah. So my sister at the time she was still playing soccer. So it was one of her teammates' dad. He also had spina bifida, and he introduced me to that. And from then I just kept going to practices. And it was with Southern Arizona Adapted Sports. At the time, they didn't have like a juniors program. They only had like the adults division. So I kept showing up to practices, until they let me play in with them. And so from then, I kind of just started playing with the adults. And then when they finally had a juniors program, I was able to lead that program. I'm still leading it to this day because I'm the captain of the team. And I still get to play with the adults too.
Wow. Well, since we're on the subject, how many teams are you playing on, girl?
I'm playing on 3 teams. I'm playing on the Arizona Storm, the Tucson Lobos, and the Junior Wildcats.
Okay, so the Arizona Storm is, explain that. That's a women's team, right?
Women's team, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other, the
The other one is
Lobos.
the D1 team. That's the Lobos, and then the Junior Wildcats is the juniors team.
Yeah. So juniors team explains that it's youth. D1 for those that aren't familiar is the highest level of play in our sport. Trust me, Adrina holds her own at that level. I've seen it in person and have enjoyed how she can just handle herself amongst the giants of our game. How's it feel to, you're going from juniors to adults and then over to women? Do you enjoy the three equally, or do you like one more than the other?
Women's game is my favorite because it's more strategic and more fundamental, and like men's game is like fast and all that stuff. But I'm really about fundamentals and just getting like good, solid basketball. So women's game is definitely up there for me.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing you saying is that in the women's game, there's more thinking of and strategy related to what's going on the floor instead of just taking the ball and like a man would do and try to ram it down everybody's throat. I think that's why I enjoy coaching women so much and always have. When we're talking about the women's team, we got nationals coming up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Are
Definitely.
you and me and us going to have another
I'm
showdown?
I'm bigger. I'm stronger. I'm
Come on.
taller than last time we
Don't be
played at
shy
DK.
now.
I told you it's not happening again. Never again.
All right.
You're not beating me again. I'm calling it
What's
right
not
now. I'm
happening?
calling it right
What's not happening?
now.
Ah, okay, okay. Well, first of all, we got to meet each other first. Second of all, it's not
Yeah.
just you. We got to stop your entire team. But trust me, you are a priority in terms of how we strategize. And yeah, I'm not trying to throw down the smack gauntlet, because we may not even play each other. We don't know yet, but more than likely, if history repeats itself,
Yeah.
we will, because that's happened a lot, hasn't it? You touched on family. You touched on your sister, but why don't we get a little more in depth with what that support looks like, what your parents do versus what your sister does, and then explain a little bit about your sister's situation and being a
Yeah.
Paralympian.
So my sister, she plays currently she plays sitting volleyball and para beach volleyball, and we help each other train a lot. She's like, I help train her, she helps train me, I help motivate her. It's kind of just like a back and forth thing. If she's not training and I'm training, I'll be like, come on, we need to go train, and vice versa. And my parents are really just there to make sure that, when we're training, we're being safe. And they're really just there to be our biggest support, whatever we want to do. Like, if my sister wanted to play, like, she tried out golf, and my parents were 1,000% supportive of her. And I'm just all about basketball. I don't plan on switching anytime soon because that's just my love. And it's just what I do. And they're 1,000% supportive, sending me to camps and helping me go to tournaments. And my mom's really supportive. She's really hardworking, and I get a lot of my hard work and my attitude from her, like just like my motivation. And my dad helps push me. Like he takes me out to the park, and he trains me, and he reminds me that I need to stay grounded. And my whole family does really, but they're just my biggest support system. And I wouldn't be anywhere like close to where I am without them today, without their support.
Yeah, there's always somebody on the sidelines or in the shadows that are helping someone like you or me rise to whatever occasion, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is really done by ourselves, and our family is our go-to. It's our most consistent means of support, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know your dad's name is Alex. I know your sister's name is Mia. What's your mom's name?
So people call her Dee. Her name is Danitza, but most people can't really pronounce that, so everybody just calls her Dee. But
D?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. I'm all about little nicknames, and yours isn't so little, though, to be honest. She's got one letter and you've got a whole catchphrase.
Yeah.
Uh, well, this next question, it seems kind of funny asking a 16-year-old, but I'm going to do it anyways. Like, what are your current life goals?
Obviously, to make like the Paralympic team, my biggest goal right now, hopefully, is LA 2028, and like just like Paralympic in general, like basketball, and obviously, I want to become a lawyer. That's a big goal in my life, just so that way I could advocate for people like
All
us.
right. Well, what's it going to take for either of those to happen? Like, those are big girl dreams right there.
Yeah, just a lot of hard work, a lot of training, a lot of focus, especially just making sure like my school's right, my training, I got the right mindset,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think you were talking about. I heard disability law as what you want to be a lawyer in. Yeah, and that would
Yes.
be finding the right college where you could get that education. So that will be your
Yeah.
deciding factor where you go and then working out the basketball, or will you find the basketball then trying to work out the career or education?
I'm not too sure yet because, yeah, I'm not that sure about college yet. I'm very open to my colleges right now. Um, I'd say it's more about like the people and like
Yeah,
where I fit in and education, obviously, but where I fit in the most and where I feel most at home.
yeah,
That's probably one of the
sure,
biggest
sure.
things.
Well, with what is currently going on in our country and how, first of all, equity related to disability rights and everything is not on the same level as other, uh, uh, you know, where discrimination is taking place, and now with DEI being pushed out of the picture, it's where we really need to have strong voices and support systems throughout the legal system. So I'm really anxious for you to become a great lawyer if that's the path you stick to, because yours and my world really needs that. So what made you think of being an attorney or a lawyer? What?
I would have to say the impact I saw other people, like how much of an impact somebody with a disability can make with just in like our world and the outside part, and especially like Matt and going to the White House and all that, just seeing how much power those people can have and how it could change so many things, like just in my life, how they can impact my life, and I want to impact people's lives in a positive way and stand up for people like in our position with disabilities and just give them a voice when nobody else gave them
Yeah,
one.
yeah. That's so needed. Um, well, you're 16, but yet to me, you're a role model in the NWBA, and uh, do you think of yourself that way?
In a way, yeah. Like I could see like kids like they message me for training like I used to do like with and I still do with like people up there like athletes like that like Matt, Steve, Becca. I message them and now it's like juniors are messaging me my age or not, like younger, older, like people are asking me for advice. So it's kind of just a full circle moment to have that happen to me. And it's just like, wow, people look up to me the same way I looked up to like Steve and Matt and Becca, all of them. It's just like a crazy experience and just like weird to think about in a way. But I would think of myself as seriously, and I hope that I help little kids and like motivate them to want to work hard and just be like like be a good athlete and be a good person and just work towards their goals.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've always felt that in order to keep it, you got to give it away. And it sounds like you're really reaching out to those and making their basketball lives better, and or maybe just their lives if they're not even in sport. They're seeing what you're doing and what you're accomplishing, and what you're about, most importantly. you know so uh, having said that, you mentioned some names, but if you had to choose and it's not to put you on the hot seat like you're going to offend anybody, but who in the female athlete basketball playing world would be your role model?
I would have to go with probably Rose because she's the person who helped me when I was little. I met her when I was around 11 or 10 years old, and I told her I was coming for her spot on Team USA. So that was really fun. I
Doesn't
met her,
surprise me.
yeah,
Yeah.
I met her at UTA camp. She was one of my coaches, and she's been somebody I looked up to for a while, and having her support has meant like the world to me, and always will be one of my biggest role models.
Yeah. Okay. And for everybody out there, she mentioned Rose, which we all know, but it's Rose Hollerman. And what is she, like, four-time Paralympian?
I'm not sure, honestly.
I think so. I think 2012 was her first, and 16, 20. Yeah, it could even have been her fifth. Wow. And she's still young, but she started young like you. So, yeah. Okay. What about the male side of the game?
I feel like this one's gonna be obvious, but it's Matt. So yeah, he's always supported me. He's been one of my number one supporters. He followed me when I was really like when I was like first starting out, and I didn't exactly know who he was. And as soon as I found out, I was like, wow, that's like it was insane to think about that somebody with like who's that high up in the basketball world could like look at me and see like that there's something in me, like there's potential in me, and having his support has meant the world. And continue to be one of my great friends. And just having him by my side makes me more confident in wanting to work harder.
Right on. Yeah. You guys can share those training videos. But yeah, tell us Matt's last name and what he's all up into right now that you know.
So it's Matt Scott. He has the Fly Without Limits Foundation. He is taking over DK 3-on-3. And this year is going to be the biggest one yet. And Camp for Champs is coming up too. So
What
that's
what what's the key thing about Camp for Champs?
it's helping kids like get to sports camps and giving them like scholarships to be able to go and travel to these camps. So that way, kids who maybe can't afford it are able to go to these basketball camps and have that experience.
Yeah, so there doesn't come with a much better and more powerful example than Matt Scott and what he's done after his gold medals in Paralympic play, and now he is really changing the landscape and in terms of advocating and putting on monster great events, both that give away as many as 50 wheelchairs to kids and adults that need them. But like you said, providing those scholarships and what's needed to get kids to camp, and camp is really important in almost every youth that started and fell in love with the game has been to a camp. How many have you been to?
I have gone to like 10 maybe? I don't
Yeah,
even know.
yeah, yeah, that's 10 camps, and you're only 16. So, yeah, that's uh, that's so cool. But yeah, so those are two powerful role models, and I respect them big time as well. Um, so, what if I just said, "Witness me"? Or okay, that's a Nike gig that you are, and you cross over to where some adult athletes have never been, and then I love the other part of the slogan in that Nike influenced gig you got. Greatness is never done. So, talk to us about that because it's really attracting to me, anyways.
Yeah, so it's something that like I never really planned on doing. It just kind of came about me. So this guy had reached out. He's like, "Oh, I think you'd be perfect for this job," and I was really confused. And so like a little later, I auditioned for it and I got it, and it was really a surreal experience. And I didn't really like it didn't click what happened until after, and I saw it like on TV, and it was like the craziest thing ever. And since then, I've worked with Nike again, and I've worked with Gap, and I've worked with J.C. Penney and JanSport and Apple. It's just a really crazy thing to think about. Like I wasn't even planning on doing that. Like that wasn't a part of like the journey. It was just something that happened along the way, and it was really fun. And being on set is just insane. It's very like weird, and it's just like a really fun and cool experience to think about that like most adults haven't done this. And I was like 12, 13 at the time, and I was doing this, and I had no clue what I was doing. I was just being myself, and I was just doing what I knew how to do, which was like just talk in front of the camera, except the camera was like 5 times bigger. So it was really fun though.
Yeah, instead of a cell phone or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
a little different. Yeah, well, we're really glad to see that you are getting your opportunity, and not, stepping back just a little bit. We talked about role models, but then you're also a model, and you mentioned some of those companies, and yeah, I think you're linked up with a modeling agency, and so how fun is that?
It's really fun. Like doing auditions, I love it. It's just something I've thought about doing, like acting and modeling. It's like something that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like people who do that are really cool. And then now I'm doing it, and I'm getting headshots taken and pictures taken of me. It's just, it feels natural. And it's just really fun to do all these auditions because you never know what the next one's gonna be. Like one, you could be like doing like a wheelie and just like posing in front of the camera. And it's just like weird to think about how many different things that people think that you'd be able to do, and how many things that like I've been put up for, that I've gotten and haven't gotten. Think about how many things I've auditioned for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I've seen, you're having a really good time with it,
Yes,
right?
very fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. So we both ride Performax,
Yeah.
right? The Performax is my sweet ride, and yours too. And I wanted to go down this road because many young people will be looking at you, and in terms of how you manage your relationships with not just wheelchair manufacturers, but other relationships. And to you, where does loyalty fit in related to people that help get you started?
So to me, like loyalty, it's like it doesn't feel like a transaction. Like it just feels like, you're there for me, I'm there for you. You need something, then I'm there. If I need something, you're there. Like Performax has been with me since I was 11, since like 2019, which is crazy to think about. Like I'm 16 now and I've been with them for like 5 years, which is insane. But to me, they've always felt like family, like a second family. And to my family, they feel like family. And if I need something, like I was in Colorado and they found somebody, like my what is it, the bearing broke on my front caster on my day chair, and they like called somebody who was there and they fixed it for me. It's like anywhere, anytime I need something, they'll be there, they'll find somebody. Like if I can't fix it, they'll find somebody. It's like crazy thing, but they've always just felt like a second family, and I will always love them, always be loyal to them. Like other companies, obviously they have their things that make them great, but Performax is just different. It's just I felt right at home with them.
Yeah, well, I'm loving your answer, and my question was intentional. You know, in 50 years, I have not paid for a wheelchair, and I've only been with three companies in 50 years, and the first two companies went away. I was being approached to switch, but I I chose to support. I'm loyal. I'm so loyal to those that help me. And in today's age, we have to be careful because there's so many people just on the take to try to find the best deal or what can you do for me and all this. But when you institute the component of loyalty, if you stick to that, you will you will get paid down the road in so many different ways. Uh, and so I think it's really important because you have a voice and a platform, and young kids are gonna want to be like you, and they already are wanting to be like you, and some adults as well. But yeah, and when you look within the ranks of Performax, you have Rose Hollerman, you have Brian Bell, Steve Serio, Matt Scott, all who could jump any which way direction they want to, but they also believe in loyalty. So this is a good topic for us to share on this podcast because it means a lot to me and a person's integrity when we're loyal to those that help us the most. And you call them family. It doesn't that that vibe is legit. I've asked for so much Performax help, and they always say yes. They always say yes, and they're sponsoring they're the presenting sponsor of this podcast. They're the presenting sponsor of the Hall of Fame for that induction ceremony coming up in April. So yeah, we're on a good team, girl. Yep. Um, All right, how old were you when you started knocking on my door for
Like
DK3?
13 probably, and you didn't expect it till I was
Yeah, yeah,
15.
where and you yeah, so you were relentless, and I think I had to politely say, itty bitty. I think I might have called you that then when you were
Yeah.
small, but you just gotta wait a little longer. Your turn will come, and you remember all that,
Yeah,
right?
unfortunately. Oh,
Yeah.
what's that? What's that?
Ah, come
What's
on, that's a prop. All right,
that?
so we get to that 20th annual where I'm going to call it. I'm going to fade off into the Matt Scott run DK3 event, uh, but it was the largest prize money purse in wheelchair basketball's ever seen. And let's let you talk about what happened with your team and what you accomplished there. Let's let you talk.
Yeah, so it was my first time at DK, unfortunately. Could have been my second or third, but yeah. But I guess it was a pretty good first one since, as you can see,
You're
the
too
big
funny.
check. It says first place. I don't know if you saw that.
No, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back behind you and show the amount.
Yeah, all the way.
Yeah, because this is going to be on
Wow, look at
YouTube.
that.
That says
15,000.
$15,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the richest purse in DK3 history. And who'd you play with?
Selden?
A couple of yeah, and
What's his name?
oh
Pat?
please, Pat
Patrick
what?
Anderson.
Yeah, yeah, like the best player in the world, arguably,
Yeah.
And all right, so how did it feel to run through all those teams and get to the
It was
final?
insane because the first day we lost one game, and I was like a little bit scared to play that same team again because that team had Danny Fick, Marcus, and I'm not sure who else. But yeah, that was just a scary team because it was my first time playing against Marcus, and I just heard all these stories about how big he was, like how tall he was. So a little bit scared about that, but and then we came back the next day and beat them. So it was really fun. Pat, like, he didn't say anything really on the court, but you knew what he was thinking in a way. Like, it was just like a weird feeling. Like, it was insane. Like, he'd pass me the ball when although I wasn't calling for it, I was looking for it, and he just knew that. And it was just insane. Like, the whole experience was just so cool, and it was a great first DK. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, DK3, and what, you were
Yeah.
15? Yeah, 15, and at the most elite level of 3-on-3, you won the whole thing, and I love the check, the prop, so I know your pop is he's got it going on because that timing was great. Um, so yeah, so now Matt Scott, as you mentioned, Venice Beach, that'll happen over Mother's Day weekend coming
Of
up
course.
with Fly
Never miss
Without
it.
Limits. You're going to be there, right? Yeah, of course, of course. That's just the epic throwdown, showdown on the beach with all the crazies around us, and man, I can't wait. My wife and I will be going again, and it's gonna be a blast. So, um, well, that's that's a whole lot of success for a 16-year-old. Not just that
Yeah.
event, everything we've talked about. So you probably know what my next question is going to be. Like I want to know how you
Yeah.
manage your ego. You know, A- and let me just qualify that question. You, we all need ego. And if you're an athlete, you better have an ego. But we have to be, in my mind, what I've learned over my time is that my ego
Mhm.
never really tells the straight truth. I'm either
Yeah.
lesser or I'm more than. And I've got to try to find that ground in the middle. And you mentioned, to stay grounded. But you're 16 years old and you've had more success than most adults could have in their entire lifetime. So, what do you think about this topic of ego and keeping it in check?
I think that has a lot to do with my family. Like, although I've accomplished a lot, like in basketball and with that, like outside of basketball, I still don't feel like that I've changed a lot within the basketball. Like I still have so much to do that I want to do and that I want to work towards and be able to leave my wheel print on the basketball community, like the wheelchair basketball community and all that stuff. But with my family, they just remind me like you can be successful. That's fine. You can brag once you're retired. You can brag when you're in your 50s, 60s, whatever. But it's okay to, you can enjoy it in the moment, but you can't like have a big head about it. It's okay to celebrate your success, just not have a huge head and not be too cocky about it. Like you could be cocky ish, like a little bit on the court, but you can let your game speak for itself. Like you shouldn't have to say anything in order for you to be successful. You just let your game speak.
Yeah, really, really, really important, and you need to be approachable from the rank and file, those kids or maybe the players that aren't on a elite path, making them feel as important as somebody that has a big rep, that's a real attribute, and I'm sure you're gonna be that way because you have a number of mentors around you that are like that, and your family is preaching it and expecting it. So cool deal. Well, so Adrina, what do you see as your major challenges or challenge for now and looking towards the future? Do you have some challenges that you foresee?
The biggest challenge that I see within my future would have to be like accepting things that I can't control. Like once I start working towards like Team USA journey and all that stuff, like just if I don't make the team the first time, oh well, there's always next time. Like I can't control whether or not they pick me. I can't control whether or not like this thing happens in a game. Like I can only control the things within my control and I can't like dwell on the things that I am unable to control. That's the biggest thing that I see, just that mentally, not to dwell on those.
Yeah, so what can you control related to 2028?
I can control how much effort I put in, how much training I do, how much like focus I have while playing basketball. Like just my mindset, I can control all of that.
Yeah, yeah, that's an adult answer. 16-year-old. Good stuff. So, all right, now you touched on it briefly, and I don't know that anybody really heard, but you were invited to the White House, and you had a microphone in front of the White House. Describe that time, that level of excitement or nerves that you could have had being a spokesperson for the world of disability.
It was just like a crazy experience, really. So the first time we went, it was to celebrate the ADA, and I went with my mom, my sister, and it was just the three of us. And we didn't really expect anything from that. It'd be like, cool, we got invited to the White House. It was really cool. We saw the president speak, and that was really cool. And then within the same month, they're like, oh, we invited you guys back for the Olympic and Paralympic USA ceremony. And we're like, oh, maybe not. Like, we might not be able to go. And then they're like, oh, well, we want you to give a speech. And I was like, okay. So within the couple of days that we confirmed that I was going to give the speech, we had to write up the speech and then we had to send it back and forth in order to make it, the final version of it. And before, like 10, 20 minutes before that, we met the president. And then he was talking to me before we were going on stage, like they were announcing and all this stuff, and he was still talking to me, and he didn't hear it. And they're like, "Mr. President, they called, they announced, you have to go." And he kept coming up to me after I gave the speech. He's like, "That was so amazing," and I would have stuttered, like I would be so nervous, and I wouldn't say that I was really nervous beforehand because we were just the whole day. We got there at like maybe 8, I think, and we were hanging out. I met Paul Schulte and then Tori Husk, I think. She's
Right.
an Olympic swimmer.
Yep.
Yeah. So we were just in this one room all day. And maybe an hour before we were supposed to go on stage, we got a tour, like a private tour, and me and Paul were in the president's elevator. And so that was a really cool experience. And we were just kind of waiting to be able to go on stage, and I think it was a big surprise for like everybody because I went out and it was just like the men's and women's, like the wheelchair basketball team, and like waving at them because my dad and my sister, they came out first, and they were like, they told me that like everybody was like confused, like why it was just them because they walked in front of the stage to get to their seats. So it was just like people were probably thinking, "Oh, where's Adrina? Or where's Itty Bitty?" And then I come out on stage, and the only time I was really nervous was when I was on the stage, like right before. But and then when I went to, so yeah,
Oh yeah, I saw
yeah.
it.
So
It's
during
hilarious.
rehearsals, we did like a mic check, and I'm like, "Oh," my dad was like, "Oh, you can't really hear you." I'm like, "Oh, it'll be fine. It's fine." And then they're like, "Whatever you do, don't touch the mic." And I'm like, so when I was going to speak at the actual when it was actually happening, I was like, what do I do? Like, and then somebody came over. I think he was like military or something, and he moved the mic closer to me, and I was like, okay. So I was just my nerves were kind of calmed down because it was just a funny thing that happened, and it just made the whole thing,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it made the whole
Icebreaker.
thing a lot more
Yeah.
memorable. And it was really fun to give a
Uh,
speech. And we got to stay, and me and my sister, we made like a bunch of friendship bracelets that like red, white, and blue, Team USA, and we gave them out to a bunch of athletes. And that was just a really cool experience because I saw the athletes posting them, and they were wearing the bracelet, or it was in like their like photo dump thing. And so that was just a really cool experience.
no kidding, man. No kidding. And your message was powerful, short and sweet, and so really proud of you in that regard, but for everything that you've done to date. The next big question is: have you read any more of my book other than the part that
I
you
read a little
were
bit,
in?
yes. It's right here. See, I got a
Uh,
bookmark right there. Right here.
right on, right on. Yeah, yeah. Well, this is where I go into my promo mode, and you can find Wheelhead on Amazon. It's got a 5-star rating, and you can find it in Barnes and Noble, and you can find it on my website at davekiley.dk3.com for any signed copy that you might want. And so if you bring yours,
You signed
did I ever
mine.
sign yours?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
yeah,
right
yeah,
here.
never mind. Oh, looky there, your fan. Yeah. Anyway, so enough about that. So, how about you? Have you entertained any kind of dream of writing your own book
I haven't really thought about it.
someday?
I mean, I'm not gonna say no to it because it's still a possibility. Anything can really happen in the future, but I don't know. Maybe.
True that. True that. Trust me, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it was worth it in the end. But well, look, we have just rolled through almost a full hour, and do you? I want to thank you for being my guest. You are the youngest guest that has ever been on the Wheel Print podcast. So another milestone, another accomplishment. At least I hope
It
you
is.
look
It's
at
an
it that
honor.
way. But yeah. But do you have any
Um,
parting words before I close?
Thank you so much, and make sure to pick up your copy of Wheelhead, guys. Really good book, really good to read. Make sure to read the part where I'm in it. Yeah.
Whatever gets him to read it, right? Yeah. Well, your story inside is pretty amazing. So, well, look, Adrina, grateful again to have you. I want to thank all the listeners that are going to be amazed by you and this episode. So, in closing, I want to say that you can find us on Apple and Spotify and on our YouTube channel. And make sure you tune in and check out Adrina and just be inspired. I'm going to close out now. And so victory loves preparation. I'm going to just leave you all with that. All right. Much love, Adrina, and to your family. All right.
Peace.
Peace. I know you enjoyed today's guest on the Wheel Print Podcast, and thank you for listening. I invite you to check out all our episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and on our YouTube channel. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Performax Wheelchairs, the Sweet Ride. 25 years of excellence and experience. Choose Performax and never be let down. Follow us on Instagram at DK3_Soul of the Game.